On the air, player.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy. I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
So we wanted to start this week with the big news. New head coach for the Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur, coming over from the Tennessee Titans where he was offensive coordinator. Jeezy, what are your initial thoughts and reactions on that hire?
I want to push straight on your buttons here, Van. I want to go straight to Skip Bayless's response to Matt LaFleur being hired.
No, I hate Skip Bayless.
So Skip Bayless says...
hold on. I want to go on the record as saying that Skip Bayless is absolutely delusional. I don't know how he has a career in sports broadcast. That man could not tell his head from his asshole. I mean it. He's a no-talent having ass clown. Proceed.
So his basic premise is usually after a team wins the Super Bowl or their team goes really far, you then find those coaches, make them the leader of a new team. And he says he just basically can't understand why Matt LaFleur. He comes off the Titans. The Titans had a nothing to write home about year, and then we hired Matt LaFleur. So I just want to start straight right there by pushing that button, get your response to that. Then I'll give you my own opinion and we'll talk about it.
I think I made my stance very clear. My feeling towards Skip Bayless, I will say, are a little more intensely than I feel about Colin Cowherd. That dude makes me so angry. Either way, at first when I saw we hired Matt LaFleur, I said, who? I never had heard of the guy, but then I started looking up his credentials. He's been quarterbacking his entire career, right? He played quarterback at Saginaw Valley State, coached Northern Michigan. He coached the Texans, the Redskins, Notre Dame, Falcons, Rams, Titans. He's dealt with very talented quarterbacks, specifically in that role as quarterbacks coach or offensive coordinator. His entire career has circled the quarterback position. I'll also note that Matt LaFleur is 39 years old, so he's much closer in age to Rodgers than McCarthy was. But in terms of disciplining, to me, the word discipline to me at this level falls on the same lines as like, I'm going to get in trouble. You're a fucking adult. What does get in trouble mean? What does discipline Aaron Rodgers even mean? Hold him accountable? Because after every game in his press conferences, he says, yep, I missed that throw. That was my bad. We need to do better because I screwed things up. So I don't even know what does that mean, discipline Aaron Rodgers.
Of course, Skip Bayless is the one to say, can Matt LaFleur discipline Aaron Rodgers? I've heard it said. I've heard it at the bar when I was out talking about football with other people. Is Aaron Rodgers becoming uncoachable? And I said earlier this week that I wouldn't bring this up during the podcast. We're bringing it up. Here we are anyways. Is Aaron Rodgers becoming uncoachable? This is the question, right? He has a tremendous career coming in basically right out the gate till 2016. He has some MVP seasons. He has a Super Bowl championship. You know, he's doing all the things you want to see out of your quarterback in the league. And then he gets hurt last year. We don't make the playoffs. We basically have a turn off the TV kind of season. And then this year, it's not any easier to turn on the TV. In fact, I would say the heartbreak is much more tragic considering how much skill and how many close games we had that we just couldn't win. So I had to talk to you earlier this week, sit you down, explain that Aaron Rodgers did not have an elite quarterback year. He's playing behind or right at the same quarterback rating as somebody like Dak Prescott, who's mediocre Cowboys team somehow still made it to the playoffs, and now you and I are sitting here in our houses not talking about our playoff team. So
no, we're sitting here having to listen to them talk about we dem boys for the next 20 years because they won one playoff game.
Exactly, and it was in the wild card round. So anyway, all I can say is there is something to be said about discipline on this team, and I would change it. I would say we need to get out of a rut. I think too many people were too comfortable doing the same thing over and over. And when you do the same thing over and over, you should expect the same results. I feel like people showed up, even though we had Aaron Rodgers back and played like they played last year. We need somebody who's going to change that. We've got Mike Patine in for defense. I like some of the things I saw there already. Matt LaFleur, he comes from the school of thought like Sean McVay. He's going to run a lot of similar looks, but run exotic plays out of those. Very different outcomes from very similar setups, which keeps the defense guessing. That's what he's known for. So I started playing devil's advocate about Skip Bayless, and also Stephen A. Smith said some things that I didn't agree with, basically saying he didn't understand the hire either. To me, I look at Matt LaFleur's performance with the Tennessee Titans, and I see somebody who was able to adapt to injuries, which the Packers have to be. I can't guess where they rank in injuries, but it's not good. We have a lot of injuries every year. So he was able to make a lot out of a pretty depleted roster, and he's able to adapt quickly and effectively, and that's something we didn't see this year. As we had injuries, as we had different types of scenarios in the actual game, we didn't see Mike McCarthy adapting fast enough, strong enough. Obvious disagreements where Aaron is calling audibles at the line. There's a few rumblings about things in the locker room being said about play and play calling. I don't expect to see that this year. I think with Matt LaFleur in there, we're going to hopefully see something like we saw with the Rams when Sean McVay takes over. A strong offense, some things that are highly adaptable. We'll see some of our dynamic playmakers really stand out in this league with a scheme that I think will make all of the difference.
I have to say a couple things. First thing, I have to correct you. Our defensive coordinator's last name is pronounced Pettine, not Patine.
My B.
I think you're right that Matt LaFleur has done a great job adapting to change. I think he's done a really great job, too, with Marcus Mariota, because Mariota can't seem to stay healthy. It seems like he gets a shutdown injury every year, and he got banged up again this year. And then he goes and takes Derrick Henry and just runs the wheels off of him, and Derrick Henry's out there making grown-ass men look like little-ass boys. I think you're right. I don't expect to hear any rumblings of any locker room disagreements and things like that. New perspective always helps. And I think you're right. I think people did get into a rut. And actually, I think a side benefit of Matt LaFleur being as young as he is I think he'll actually be able to connect to the players that are right out of college, 22, 23, 24 years old, versus Mike McCarthy, who was in his 50s, trying to connect with those guys just on a personal level. I guess it's worth noting that we signed him to a 4-year deal, the 5th-year option. I didn't see any specifics about money and things like that. I also didn't really look.
I don't think anything's been announced for money. I tried to look for it. Maybe it is, but I haven't been able to find anything either.
Regardless, I'm actually pretty excited about this hire. I mean, I know some of the pundits have their thoughts and have their opinions, but I'm actually pretty excited about this once I did a little bit of digging into LaFleur and his background.
I found a quote that I really like, and it pretty much summarizes how I've been feeling. So Murphy, at the time of the hiring, says, and this is the quote, "All right, Matt, it's been 2 long years here in Green Bay. We're ready to get back to winning."
I did hear that, and I went, yeah. It was like one of those speeches that you hear and you're just like, fucking America. But instead of America, it was Green Bay Packers, man.
It's like cheese all the way through. I got cheese coursing through my blood right now.
My arm looks like one of those jalapeno hot dogs with the cheese layer on the inside.
Exactly. So, I can't agree with that sentiment any more than I already do. It has been a very, 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 very long 2 years here in Green Bay. We got spoiled off of Brett Favre. We got spoiled off of the first more than a decade of seasons with Aaron Rodgers, and now we're not in the playoffs right here.
You said it, and I do want to emphasize it. We have been spoiled. We have been spoiled in our lifetimes. You and I don't have really any conscious memory of the Packers being atrocious, because my conscious memory of the Green Bay Packers begins in '96 when we win the Super Bowl. So I do want to emphasize spoiled. We have been spoiled. Look at how many teams. I would argue that there's only, in my current memory, the Patriots are the only other team that have had as much success, making the playoffs as we have in our lifetimes. So again, I say this all the time. We could be Browns fans. I didn't mean to hijack your thoughts here, but I do want to emphasize the fact that we are spoiled as Packers fans.
No, I definitely agree with that. But what I want to say here, what I want to go back to is, I think Matt LaFleur can end these 2 long years in Green Bay. Look, Green Bay has horrible weather. We are known for our football. We are known for our football, our beer, and our cheese. Our cheese. We're not known. Green Bay is not known for anything other than football, and I want to get to winning. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to know. That's what we need to do. We need to do that. We need to get back to winning. I think Matt LaFleur gives us a very, very strong chance, a new scheme. And I was reading more about his previous scheming. He does a lot of incorporating of the run, which is something I've hammered on 1,000 times. And he does a lot of play action passing that I think will keep the pass game loose, and it'll make sure that the running game is heavily incorporated. And I think those two things alone will be a vast improvement over what McCarthy was doing last year, or this year, I guess.
And I think with a running back like Aaron Jones, that run threat is actually there. I think in the past, when we've had James Starks as our number one back, we try to run play action, and everyone goes, "Yeah, right. You aren't running the ball." And I think with a legitimate running backs in Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, I think that makes the play action a serious threat. And I'm actually interested to see what he does with Aaron Rodgers' mobility as well. He's worked with fairly mobile quarterbacks in Marcus Mariota and RG3 actually as well. So I'm pretty interested to see what he does with Aaron Rodgers' mobility, because Aaron Rodgers ranks up there as one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league. So that's another little wrinkle I'm looking to see how it plays out.
So I did take a quick look at the power rankings of all teams, just because you brought this up. Of the last 20 years, you were saying we're spoiled. We've had nothing but the best. First off, I'm going to tell you, number one at the bottom, Cleveland Browns, worst regular season record, only 2 playoff appearances in the last 20 years.
At least we're not Browns fans.
Seasons above 500, 3. Not an awesome performance, not an awesome place to be. Now, a lot of the expansion teams are down there, but as we get closer and closer to the top, you know who is number 1, 2, and 3? I think they're pretty predictable, actually. I'll let you
Patriots.
guess. Patriots 1.
2, is it going to be an AFC team or NFC team?
AFC.
Steelers?
Yes. And the Green
3.
Bay Packers, number 3. I mean, of the last 20 years, which is, 2018, basically since we're 10 years old, or I'm 10 years old, little baby.
Which your baby ass.
We're having an awesome team. But it is amazing. We've had a long run of winning, and in my estimation, based on just looking at the talent that we already have, I don't see any reason why 2019-2020 season cannot be another winning season, a season where we make it a real run.
Here's a question that is far, far too early to ask, because we already finished with 2018 as a whole. Do you think Matt LaFleur can bring the Packers back to being a dynasty-type team?
It's an early question. We'll have to see. I mean, we have people who are on contract that are going to be leaving. I'm not sure what his involvement with the front office is going to be and how much he can command in that regard. We'll have to see, because it's not just one head coach. It's not just one general manager. It's not just 1 or 2 superstars that make a dynasty. It's putting together a well-oiled machine that can keep itself in motion without being torn down easily. So can one off-season hire make all the difference? It could. But we haven't even played a game yet.
Agreed, and that's why I prefaced by saying it's far too early for this question. But I think you're right. The team is made up of individual pieces, and as bad as our season looked last year, a lot of times I really did feel we were 1 or 2 pieces away from being a significantly stronger team than the level we were playing at. So I think this is one of those key pieces to be put into place that I'm looking forward to. A real quick circle back to when we were talking about coaching style, because this just popped into my head. I'm really hoping I can see more sustained drives out of Matt LaFleur. I remember one of Mike McCarthy's emphasis with an apostrophe. I don't know. He was big on the big play, right? The impact play, the 40-yard pass. But I think this year we tried to live on them. How many deep balls do we see Aaron Rodgers throw and miss? I think we were trying to thrive on these deep impact plays. And so I'm really looking to see LaFleur be able to change things up a little bit, sustain some drives, keep the defense off the field to keep them fresh, and really be able to change tempo and throw a lot of different looks at the opposing defense.
Absolutely. The plural of emphasis is emphases, by the way. But
emphases.
I agree.
Side note, this is a personal grammatical opinion. I really feel as if the plural of ambulance should be ambuli.
What about the plural of Prius? Do we have an official Oxford answer for that?
The official Cheezy podcast stance on the matter is pre-I.
All right. So as I cruise as my family does own a fleet of Prii, I would like to answer your previous point, which is Matt LaFleur, from what I've read, I've not watched the Titans very closely. I didn't watch the Atlanta Falcons that closely when he was basically the primary guy working with Matt Ryan. So I can't say for 100%. I haven't gotten a chance to go back and revisit some of that. But from what I've read, this is a man who runs a pretty balanced offense, does a good job that way. But he is not afraid to make a play that can change the game, to look for big-time passes. He's somebody who is going to get everybody involved. I think the thing that was really pretty disappointing to see this year is not everybody was as involved as possible, which made our team one- or two-dimensional when really we have so many different dimensions, so many different aspects, so many different ways we can win. And we were only looking down a couple of lanes to get to that victory.
It was a little startling to me in most post-game conferences. Aaron Rodgers was saying we needed to feed Devontae Adams the ball more, which he put up the second highest receiving yardage season for the Packers. But so that was a little startling to me, and I agree that we do need to get all of our talent involved at some point because we have a pretty diverse set of skills in our receiving core and our running backs. And so it did seem like we tried to pigeonhole things last year. So I think you're right. I hope LaFleur does spread the wealth a little bit.
I don't think there's any way he could do any worse than last year, if I can say that. This is a year. This year, the 2018-19 season is a year that I have stood up and yelled, "Run the fucking ball," more than any time in my life ever. And so if we can just run the ball a little more and work the ball around, I think Valdez-Scantling and Equanimous St. Brown are going to be back better than ever. I think Geronimo Allison is going to be back, although I haven't checked his status. He didn't play the last game, and I don't know 100%, but if he's back, that's going to be another big person. And what are you saying about Moore?
Jamon Moore is another one of our young receivers as well we drafted last year. Don't forget him.
All right, well, I forgot about him. There's not a lot I can do about remembering him at this moment, but what I can say is we have a lot of raw talent, and if Matt Fleur can help us get the ball moving, I think we're going to be very good. We still have Aaron Jones. We also have Williams. We're going to have a pretty dynamic team. And let's not forget that if Aaron Rodgers plays at his best, I think he is the best quarterback in the league. Did he have the best season of all time this season? No. Did he make it so that everybody can say Drew Brees is the greatest of all time all of a sudden after no one was saying that last year? Yeah, that did happen. But so what? Aaron Rodgers can come back with a good year and be that guy again. And I know he still has it in him.
Agreed. He's got a lot of ball left in him. Moving on from LaFleur, just a quick note for continued success in the future. Mike McCarthy did interview with the Jets and the Browns. The Jets elected to hire Adam Gase from the Miami Dolphins. So Mike McCarthy has announced that he's going to sit out this year and come back at it in 2020. He's going to spend 2019 with his family.
So Mike McCarthy, I have nothing but respect for the man. He's done a lot of great things for the city of Green Bay. He's done a lot of great things for the team. Got a lot of respect for him. I think he is an excellent coach. I think he will make a good fit somewhere. From what I read, Green Bay was one of 8 teams looking for a new coach. We're the first to announce a hire. So I'm surprised that he's given up this early. Maybe those were the only 2 teams where he really felt he would fit or that he wanted to actually be in those cities. But I'm a little surprised that he's calling it quits early. I think with 8 openings, a guy like Mike McCarthy and his resume can find a job in the NFL. Now, I'm not sure that he's guaranteed to get a head coaching position, although I think he would. I would put it above 75% that if he kept going, that he might get one. But, I mean, he could definitely get in somewhere if he wanted to be on the field.
Well, a lot of the head coaching jobs did get sucked up pretty quickly, right? We took Matt LaFleur. Bruce Arians went to the Buccaneers. I think it's Clippinger something from USC went to the Cardinals. Adam Gase went to the Jets. So that's 4 there already. That's half the team's filled up.
Yeah, I don't know all of the hiring. Last I had read, we were first. I didn't read about all of the others as of yet, but I thought there were still some openings out there.
So I've got, as I mentioned, we have Matt LaFleur, Bruce Arians to the Buccaneers, Cliff Kingsbury to the Cardinals from USC, Freddie Kitchens to the Browns, Vic Fangio, that's the other one I was thinking of. Vic Fangio left the Bears to go to the Broncos, which actually is, I think, is helpful to us. He really built up that Chicago defense.
And I want to talk. I want to talk about that Chicago defense and that whole team here in a little bit. So let's not lose that.
Chicago does have a lot of raw talent on that defense, so I'm not too overly concerned with them needing to find a new defensive coordinator. I think no matter who they have in that position, they're going to do well. But yeah, let's get into that Bears playoff game.
So before we do that, according to this article from yesterday, it says the Dolphins and Bengals, as well as that's it. The Dolphins and Bengals are the two teams still looking.
But yeah,
so anyway,
16 to 15 Eagles over the Bears. I was watching that game. I think you said you were as well. The end of that game left me with my mouth agape saying, what?
So first off, let me come out and say right away, right off the bat, that I thought the Bears were going to crush. I thought they were going to destroy the Eagles. I didn't see any outcome other than that. I looked at that game and I said, this is a good game for me to sleep through the first half and see how bad the Bears are beating them in the second half. And that's just not the case. So, as we both know, your boy kicked a rock-solid field goal at the end of the game, but was iced and it did not count. So then he did the unthinkable. Not only did he hit the upright on the real kick, but he also hit the crossbar, which, as I was watching it in real time, maybe I was delirious, maybe I was shocked, I actually thought it was going to go in the air and still kind of bounce in.
I did too. That double doink, man. I saw it hit and I saw it go up in the air and I went, and then I saw it drop on the field in front of the goalpost. I thought that shit was in either way.
I love it. The double doink. The double doink.
Discount double doink.
He got that discount double doink, and it turns out he came out with less than he showed up with. So that's a pretty good deal, other than the Bears are coming back to the Midwest and doing no more traveling until the fall.
It's worth noting, though, that the NFL did make a change on that field goal and changed the ruling on it from a missed field goal to an actual tipped ball. If you look really closely, one of the Eagles players does get his fingers on it. I don't think it changed the trajectory at all. From what I was watching, it looked like it took a little bit of oomph off of it. But then again, I'm not a kicker. What do I know? So all I know is you got laces out.
So you say the placement was bad? Are you saying a bad hold?
No. I'm saying that's from Ace Ventura. Reference just missed on that one.
I completely blanked on that.
But the NFL did come out and re-rule that as a tipped field goal rather than a complete miss. But either way, Cody Parkey, man, you feel for that kid. You know, he's receiving death threats. He's getting all this hate mail, and this is a game. These are young men who are being paid to play a game. If you're upset enough over a game to send a death threat to an individual you've never met for losing a game that has really no bearing on your own personal
What if
success?
You had a lot of money on the game? Not that I did.
Well, then you're out a lot of money. I still don't think the guy deserves death threats. And now I will say I had some pretty harsh feelings back in 2014 when Brandon Bostic tried to play the hero on that onside kick, jumping in front of Jordy Nelson and deflecting the ball back to the Seahawks, who then were able to drive down and score and win. So I had some pretty intense feelings about that, but I never once had the thought cross my mind, hey, I should write this guy a very strongly worded letter on my best stationery and tell him that I'm quite upset and send him a death threat. I've never had that thought cross my mind. I understand being passionate and upset, but I don't understand someone wishing that another human being was dead because they missed a field goal or tipped a ball.
All I can say is I know my sister is very disappointed. I know my sister-in-law is very disappointed. And I can't believe after the season that the Bears had that it's over because Cody Parkey can't make, what was it, just over 40-yard field goal? I mean, we're talking about when the whole... At home, decent conditions. This is a field goal that he is paid to make. This is not one that he went out there for an extra point and wasn't thinking. This isn't anything like that. This is one that he's focused and has prepared his his whole career for, and he doesn't make. He let the NFC North down. If he was going to do this, they should have had a worse record than us and let the Packers go to the playoffs. We would have never missed that field goal. Mason Crosby, your boy, would have made it. And the Packers, I think, beat the Eagles. I don't know how else to... Just plainly, I think we beat the Eagles. But, what are you going to do? Sorry, Bears. Sorry, NFC.
I didn't realize Cody Parkey's been around as long as he has. He entered the league in 2014, which I was pretty surprised. I didn't realize he had been around that long. He's paid to make every single field goal. And without getting too passionate about this, because this is a Packers podcast, the guy did have like 7 field goals this season get hit off the uprights. I mean, look at the situation in Minnesota when their kicker, I forget the dude's name, when we lost in overtime, dude missed like 3 field goals that game that were chip shots. And immediately after the game, Mike Zimmer was like, nope, that kid's out. Beat it, hit the bricks, we'll find somebody else. I wonder if the Bears stick with him.
Yeah, that I don't know. I always come back to you got to pay the guy who's performing. And the only thing I can't say with any definitive knowledge is who do you get that's better. So that's the only thing I can say. Cody Parkey, decent kicker. Not great, but decent.
I say the same. When everyone's calling for Mason Crosby's head after he misses 4 field goals in a game, I say, you go find me a kicker who is as good, if not better, than Mason Crosby, who's just sitting on his couch eating Cheetos, waiting for the phone to call. Because there's not one that exists.
Maybe he was eating some better rated, more appropriate for his Weight Watchers plan bag of snack than Cheetos.
Veggie straws. He's eating veggie straws.
Maybe he was at home eating veggie straws. Anyway,
I think if you're a Bears fan and you're an NFC North fan, you feel robbed by the outcome of that game. And I'm also a believer that it should never come down to one play. The offense didn't convert. The defense did a good job. They held. But the offense didn't create enough sustainable drives. They didn't make the plays they needed to make. And to me, it never comes down to one play, but it does feel that Cody Parkey robbed that team of a playoff run. And also, strange outcome from that game. What is that catch situation where the receiver caught the ball? It was ruled a fumble, kind of, but no one picked it up except for the official, so they couldn't determine a clear-cut control, so it incomplete instead.
So apparently the whole ruling is G10 classified, so we can't talk about it at length, but...
We don't have DEFCON 5 clearance.
We don't have DEFCON 5. I know you have G9 classification. This is G10 classified, but we'll talk about it briefly. My understanding is that if someone had picked up the ball, then it could have been ruled a fumble. But since there's no clear recovery on that play, basically nothing can be done. There is a sub-clause to this rule, and because there's a live ball that is never clearly recovered, they have to rule it an incomplete pass. They have to basically call the play dead at the earliest available moment. So the incomplete pass is the point. And as far as I understand, that's going to remain classified. It's going back into the same vault that the old Walt Disney movies go into. I'm not sure why that was like a top secret thing on air, but...
They save it on VHS and Betamax.
That play will be recorded forever on Laserdisc, and we'll be able to go back to the exact moment we want just by typing in the actual numbers. And what else can you do?
It does bring up a larger issue that I want to discuss in a future podcast, and that is the system surrounding replays and how they're conducted and things like that. We'll touch on that in a separate podcast, but I think it really highlights some more issues that the NFL has with the replay system.
Yeah. So last thing we have here on the agenda, I want to kind of wrap up with a little bit of gossip. Van, you went out earlier. You were
gossip.
You were in your NFL tabloids and talking about Odell Beckham Jr. maybe becoming somebody who is potentially available to the Green Bay Packers. So since you are the gossip girl on this one, why don't you go ahead and give me your first thoughts about an Odell Beckham in green and gold?
I did see an article suggesting that should Odell Beckham Jr. be available, that the Packers would be a good landing spot for him, which I vehemently disagree. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is as good as he is portrayed to be. I think he's had a couple of very impressive fingertip catches, that have really blown him up, as a household name. But when I think of some stars on other teams coming to the Packers, I think of locker room fit and culture fit. Do they fit the culture of the Green Bay Packers? I've also heard rumblings of Antonio Brown maybe leaving the Steelers. Should he go to the Packers? Le'Veon Bell, that situation. Should he go to the Packers? And all these guys, that's great. They're star athletes, but my first and foremost concern would not actually be their ability on the football field, but it would be their fit in the locker room and the culture in Green Bay. If they don't fit that culture, if they don't fit that mindset, then I don't think there's any use in bringing them in.
Here's what I can say. 99.9% effective, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, but I have one tiny inkling that keeps just kicking around in the back of my head. Odell Beckham Jr. wants to win really bad. This guy has gone on and done his own little news conferences, saying a bunch of stupid stuff. He's just, he's a prima donna, but at the end of the day, the guy has, I think, quite a bit of raw talent. If, and this is the only way that I think it can work, if Odell Beckham Jr. comes out and says, hey, I think with this new coach, I think the Packers are going to be a serious playoff contender. I'm willing to take a modest salary given my ability. So not a huge salary buster. I'm willing to take a chance, go over there and help the Green Bay Packers make a real run at it. He's tired of being there with Eli. I'm not even sure what the quarterback situation is over there with the Giants. But I want to play with a better quarterback. I want to have a chance to win games. And I want to be the guy to do it. I think if it turns into a Miami Heat like in the NBA where we have all these athletes converging on Green Bay.
We're making super teams now?
I want to see a super team. Why not?
That's why you have salary caps.
Yeah, but you can make it happen when people accept modest salaries.
You want the Yankees is what you want. You want to be able to go out and buy a championship.
No, I don't want to buy a championship. Look, this is completely out of line for Odell Beckham Jr. He's going to say he needs the biggest salary. He's got the biggest head. He thinks he's the best catcher. He's the best person catching balls anywhere on the earth. Just ask him. But if for one moment, since we're in the gossip section, if for one moment he said, hey, new coach, it's 2019. I want a new life. I'm willing to take a modest salary, one that is still a handsome salary for catching balls, but a modest salary, given that I am definitely a number one anywhere I go. He says that.
Whoa.
He said, hold on.
He is not a number one if he comes to Green Bay. Davante Adams is still the clear number one. Continue.
I love Davante Adams. That's my only response to that sidelight.
You're not gonna come out and say Davante Adams is the clear cut number one. You're gonna put Odell over him.
No, I didn't.
You did not.
I didn't not. I think that's right.
You better knock it off with them double negatives, son.
That was quadruple. Anyway, what I'm saying is if something like that were to happen, since we're gossiping already, Odell Beckham Jr. is not coming to Green Bay. But if that were his attitude, I think you seriously consider it. Like, I thought Dez Bryant last year had the right attitude. He was saying, I want to win games. I want to be a big target. I want to play to win. I thought we could have picked him up the way that he was talking. He was making sense for the first time in his whole fucking career. But, of course, that turned out to be a bust. He tears his Achilles basically in his first or second practice back, so, whatever.
You feel for that guy.
Yeah,
and he finally got on a team where he's going to win games with Drew Brees. You wonder if he's going to be back. But I can't get over the locker room issues, and I don't want to – look at Davante Adams, I'll say once again. This dude keeps his mouth shut. He knows he's one of the top 3 receivers in the league, but he's not going to go out there and showboat it. He keeps his nose to the grindstone, comes in every day, catches balls, practices, balls out every game, and doesn't expect to get a pat on the back or national recognition, and doesn't make a fuss when he doesn't get catches or targets. And I want to see that locker room fit. And, you're hearing Antonio Brown being very vocal. Odell's been very vocal in his past. I don't want a basket case in my locker room. Then, which my counterpoint is, how does a guy like Bill Belichick take people with behavioral issues and turn them into stars and corral them? Because he's done it. He took that chance on Josh Gordon, who Josh Gordon ended up stepping away for his own personal reasons. This is the same coach who goes to fucking Walmart, finds the shortest white cashier, and turns him into a superstar wide receiver. I don't know what it is. He's able to light fires in these guys while also keeping them controlled.
Why's that cashier got to be white though?
Because it is, dude. Look what happens. He always finds a short white guy, Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Like, he finds these short ass white dudes and turns them into superstars, and I don't know how.
All right, I guess that's fair enough. So, historically, that's accurate, I suppose.
It's an observation.
Fair enough. I don't know how Bill Belichick does it. It has been pulling at my heartstrings for years now. I wanted to say that he was only a good coach, but he's turned into just a great coach. The guy can do some things that I've not seen. He's able to make adjustments. He's able to adapt his personnel, his scheme to fit who's on the field.
And he gets the players he wants. And if that player doesn't perform, that dude is packing his bags and is gone. There's like a zero tolerance policy where if you look in Green Bay's history, we had a 5,000% tolerance policy with Ty Montgomery.
Ty Montgomery was not a locker room issue.
Tread carefully with
he was not generally a locker room issue.
No, but he was an on-the-field issue. You want to get yourself 2 yards or less, you hand that ball to Ty Montgomery. Speaking of Bill Belichick, I do want to talk about in a future podcast about whether Tom Brady is a system quarterback and how Aaron Rodgers would do on the Patriots if there was a quarterback swap. Remember that show Wife Swap?
Trading spouses?
Yeah, but trading quarterbacks. I want that to be a future podcast.
The real show was called Trading Spaces.
Earmark that. We're going to talk about that in the future. But
I'm going to save that deep in the balls.
I saw your eyes get real wide just there. What did I say?
No, just the idea of a system quarterback is interesting. It's something we should dive into at some point.
I'm not going to say Tom Brady is a system quarterback, but I'm not going to say he isn't a system quarterback. To be discussed in length at a future date.
I think we've pretty much wrapped up the gossip section. I'm up to my gills in gossip at the moment.
Now we just got to get advanced enough. We got one of those little push button things that goes like, Gossip Girl section.
You mean just like a soundboard?
Yeah, fine. We need that.
That's just a soundboard.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to do this little Gossip Girl every time we do Gossip section.
That's fine.
My vocals can't sustain that kind of abuse on a regular basis.
Well, I think we can wrap up this show officially.
Great segue. All right, everyone. I think we've covered enough for the week, as Jeezy alluded to.
I didn't allude. I directly stated.
As Jeezy directly stated.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll get another podcast pumped out for you next week. And once again, you're listening to Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy. I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.